So the question from Alex Elvey is how to use super maximal training. When do we use it and why do we use it? So super maximal training is either partial range lifts or overloaded eccentrics. Overloaded eccentrics is something that we don't particularly use with our athletes on a camp-by-camp basis. The reasons why is it creates a lot of soreness. This can affect their boxing training, and also it can be a stimulus for muscular hypertrophy. This is something that we don't want because we're in a weight category sport. So we use partial range lifts, such as trap bar deadlift from blocks, Anderson squats, so squatting from the pins from a half squat or quarter squat position, or like a racked press. And the reason why we use this is to overload the athlete's 1 rep max. So we can work anywhere between 100% to 120% of an athlete's 1 rep max because they're going under a less range of motion. This means that they'll be able to lift more weight. And the reason why we want to do this with boxers is because we found that on a load velocity profile, most boxers are more accustomed to high velocity, low loads rather than low velocity and high loads. So they struggle towards this back end of the curve where it's like high force, high loaded movements. And the reason why is because of their strength training history. Maybe they've done a lot of speed work or circuit training, lack of exposure to maximum strength training, limitations in their postural stability and their movement patterns. And this can affect the amount of load that they can lift. So during a squat or trap bar deadlift. So our initial goal is to improve maximum strength, build up the foundational movements and foundational strength, develop max strength through the full range movements. And then when we see like kind of that performance stagnating through the full range compound lifts, we start using partial range lifts to start overloading an athlete to truly unlock their maximum strength. And we've seen some massive gains in this. We've seen like athletes that have been on the program for 3 to 4 years still making 10 and 15% increases in maximum strength performance. So we find it a very, very useful tool. Now, we only use this with advanced athletes because I feel that you need to have the postural stability, that awareness to be able to get the most out of this exercise. So, for example, an athlete that is just starting the program, they might not have that trunk strength, the postural stability to be able to overload trap bar deadlift and withstand that movement, and that can lead to potential injuries and also can limit the amount of load lifted as well. So when to use super maximal training, we normally use this part of a maximum strength block. This normally starts anywhere between 10 and 8 weeks out from a fight and can finish between 6 and 4 weeks out from a fight. Normally, we look to try and do strength speed towards 6 weeks out from a fight. So we normally start doing maximum strength training 10 weeks out. Now, this doesn't mean that super maximal training can't be used closer to a fight, as we can also use it as part of complex and contrast training methods. So complex and contrast training methods are when you pair a maximum strength exercise with an explosive exercise after a period of rest. So for example, you'd use a trap bar deadlift, wait a minute or 2 minutes, and then you'd perform the counter movement jump. And what you're likely to see is anywhere between a 2 and 5% increase in that counter movement jump height. And this is due to potentiating factors from the heavy lift, and using partial range lifts during contrast training and complex training is a fantastic method because you're reducing the eccentric load, reducing the tension on the range of motion. So it's reducing the fatiguing responses from a maximal voluntary contraction. And reduction of the fatiguing responses will help increase the potentiating responses, which can then transfer into a faster and more powerful performance on the explosive action. So, for example, the counter movement jump, a med ball throw, a broad jump, a sprint, anything like that. So that's the way that we use super maximal training. We either use it as part of max strength blocks between 10 and 6 weeks out from a fight, or you can use it as part of strength strength speed blocks. When you're pairing it up with explosive exercise for contrast or complex training protocol, and that can be anywhere from 6 weeks out to even 3 weeks out from a fight. So yeah, that's the way that we use super maximal training.